Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, a show that brings you news and views from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, and the wide world. I'm Robin Adair, and we really appreciate you joining us on this show. We appreciate your support of the Rumble Room. We hope you stick with us because we're having a lot of fun. And when I say we, I'm talking about the magic we. I'm talking about my co-host with the most, the Croatian sensation himself, John Treleaven. And John, what a busy time we live in.
Of all the things that's going on in this world, and there is a ton of them, what surfaces to the top but the Will Smith slap at the Oscars? People are dying, people are sick, people are losing work. There's all kinds of crazy reactions to everything. And a bunch of prima donnas at Oscars grabbed the headlines. For those that don't know, and there are many that don't know, I was involved with martial arts many, many years when I was younger. And so I have fought, and I've been in tournaments, and I've been involved in physical altercations, always competitive. I have very, very strong views on this. Unless somebody is actually hitting you or about to be physically violent with you, either with their hands or with a weapon, that's the only time that you then are entitled to hit back. I am so angry with what Will Smith did. And there are folks that are quite saying, well, he was provoked. Nothing of that makes any sense. Will Smith committed a crime in front of the world and should face the consequences. End of story. That's how I feel about that. Anyway, we must get on to something else.
Well, you contrast Will Smith's behavior, and I saw the crowd at the Oscars give him a standing ovation. What? And he didn't even apologize to Chris Rock until about 2 days later because he realized maybe I've got a bit of a PR problem here. But, it's not very good on any level. I mean, Chris Rock made an inappropriate joke, but Ricky Gervais has been making a meal of that on the Golden Globes for 5 years, and people weren't going up and smashing him.
I never saw Frank Sinatra hit Don Rickles, and that man got it a million times.
There's no room for violence, and it was inappropriate, and I think we agree on that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of violence, John, you contrast that taking headlines away from what's going on in the Ukraine. And it's just terrible. But the war continues, and the Ukrainians are really dishing it out to the Russians. So who knows how long this is going to go. In the meantime, lots of support being directed to the Ukrainian community. I see Ed Sheeran has a fundraising concert taking place in England. And he's had response now from a Ukrainian band who say they're going to beam in a performance to the folks in the UK to show their appreciation, and they explained all of this online.
Greetings from Kyiv. We are Ukrainian musicians of the Ukrainian band Antitila, one of the most popular Ukrainian bands with a lot of fans in Ukraine and all over the world. In peacetime, our concerts gather at stadiums. The war has changed our lives. And now we are fighting with weapons against the Russian occupiers. We thank you and all of the British people for their support. Believe me, we are grateful, and we will always remember this. Today, we learned about your charity concert for Ukraine, which will take place in Birmingham. And we offer to make a live broadcast between Kyiv and Birmingham with Antitila temporarily joining the gig remotely. Our band will play our music in Kyiv, a city that has not surrendered and will never surrender to the Russian occupiers.
Robin, the courage, the human nature displayed by Ukrainians in their country, globally, the help that they're receiving by this community is just overwhelming and inspiring. Hard to fathom, Robin. Those Russians, they're bombing innocent people. It's like, that's got to end. It's so ugly.
It's interesting, the education system in Ukraine, since it became an independent country, a lot of Ukrainians have learned to speak English. I think that makes a huge difference in this PR campaign they're waging.
And we just sort of assume it, don't we? Oh, they're all just speaking English. Imagine. I clearly can speak Croatian. There are some similar words, but it's a different language. However, we'll keep on top of this story. We have lots of experts locally that can keep us up to date with what's happening. Now let's shift to an equally challenging issue regionally that's picking up a lot of attention and should be, that being the growing BC doctor shortage.
Yeah, it's a real problem, John, and we keep looking for solutions. We keep looking for answers, and I guess some are being offered as Island Health is staging a public forum on Facebook this Thursday between 7 and 8. It'll be on their Facebook site. You can register. Now, if you're watching our show on Thursday, then you can see it. A lot of people perhaps won't see this show until after it's over. And the good news is we're going to have Camille Currie on with us to do a bit of a dissection of what Dot discussed, some of the questions, some of the answers, and find out how BC Healthcare Matters feels about what went on in this forum. And we also asked Camille in advance of the forum what she's looking for.
So I'd like to know how many physicians have been hired so far. And among those physicians that have been hired, how many have come from out of province? And how many instead were physicians that are from British Columbia and has had established family practices that they've now relinquished, and therefore also relinquished all those patients to move into a UPCC position. So I have a few questions around all that.
This is the Greater Victoria Regional Health Authority. It's a branch of Island Health, and they're holding this forum. To your knowledge, there aren't other forums on the rest of the island yet. Are you hoping that if there's a lot of activity this time, that there'll be more voices heard all up and down Vancouver Island?
Absolutely. I really do. I hope this will spur off more of these, and hopefully also this proves to be a very fruitful interaction that we do get some answers to the questions we have. I also really hope it spurs off activity on the mainland, because we have a ton of support from the mainland. And though there's some regions that may not be seeing quite the same crisis state as we're seeing on the island, their family doctors are struggling in all the same ways. And so are many of the citizens and patients.
Camille Currie gives great comments. We'll have more from her in the days ahead, and we're looking forward to hearing more from BC Healthcare Matters about what we can do about this doctor shortage. But let's move on now to another major issue in the community. That is policing, and it's reared its head again. Esquimalt saying, we're not going to pay for this new police budget.
That's right, Robin. I mean, amongst all of the other issues, another huge one. Esquimalt Council has voted against the proposed police budget. Police board isn't happy, and Victoria Police Chief Delmanic certainly isn't happy. Esquimalt used to have its own police department, but it was joined to Victoria in 2003. Today, Esquimalt has a very low crime rate. And Victoria's is one of the highest per capita in the province, unfortunately. So now there's talk of Esquimalt going back to its own police force. What do folks think of on Victoria Council about this issue? Robin, I understand you ventured down to City Hall recently and looked for some answers.
It's interesting to see that the police board passed this recommendation, and you've got both mayors on that board saying, yes, we want this recommendation, but now the Esquimalt Council's voted against it, and the mayor says herself that she's in a conflict here and really would like to see Esquimalt out of this deal. What's your feeling about that?
Esquimalt wants out, I want out. So that would be the easiest solution there, I think.
Esquimalt's been unhappy about it for a while, and they've expressed this before. Do you think there's any chance that the provincial government will let them out of this deal?
If we're both screaming at the provincial government to get out of this deal, I think there's a possibility we can, and I think it would serve all interests.
Esquimalt Mayor Barb Desjardins will be turning to her community to get feedback on what they think. Should they stick with Victoria Police? Should they go alone? What model should they turn to? And the police agreement between Victoria and Esquimalt is up at the end of 2023. And of course, the province is going to have a lot to say about what actually ultimately happens here. But we want to hear more today about what Barb Desjardins is thinking.
I absolutely supported this budget for Victoria. They need those resources. When I come back to Esquimalt, I have my Esquimalt hat on, and based on all the information we received from Vic PD, from the Lepard report, we don't require further resources. Not that those extra resources aren't necessary in the greater good for the police force, but that we are already over allocated. And to the extent that it would be about 4 officers that could be allocated elsewhere. But here we are coming to the end of the framework agreement. Any one of the parties this year could signal that they want out of that framework agreement going forward. And one of the things that Esquimalt is doing is we're going out to our community to say, what are your thoughts with regard to the service and the amount that you're paying? And so that will occur in the next two months or so. And from that will help to inform council about the decision that we'll have to make around the framework agreement, which needs to be done somewhere between July and December. If I was the city of Victoria with a crime severity rate at 168, the top in the province, I would be looking at how do I bring on extra resources that are just going to help us in Victoria have the policing we require. In Esquimalt, crime severity rate is at 39, slightly higher from Central Saanich and Oak Bay. If you look at the cost of what Esquimalt is paying for policing versus those 2 municipalities, there really is a discrepancy that needs to be resolved. And it is a challenge for Chief Manock because he's trying to do this with an amalgamated force, but you have 2 different communities. You cannot police one the same as the other. We don't have the same problems. And that is the challenge for Vic PD. And all of it, Esquimalt Council are very conscious of the issues for Vic PD. But the reality is we have to be fiscally responsible to our residents. Mm-hmm. And we've done a review and the province has absolutely said no to RCMP. That's fine. That decision's already been made. And in fact, there are no new communities going to be able to be added to RCMP. And we know they have challenges in the same way in terms of servicing their communities. The opportunity so a community like Oak Bay has, where they have their own patrol and they do a contract with Saanich for those higher level, more intense services that may be required. This might be, an answer to some of the challenges we have. But council can't make this decision. We need to have the community weigh in and help us to understand how they're feeling. And absolutely, Vic PD has done a tremendous job, which is why we are where we are. But the mechanism is broken. It has not been able to be fixed. If Esquimalt pays less, Victoria pays more. How does that, you have 2 councils that aren't going to enjoy that discussion, hence the challenge that we've had and why we had to go to the province to actually get some resolution about budget allocation formula.
Barb is showing real leadership and frankly, vision during a difficult situation. Post-COVID times, it's a new reality for us. It's smart for her to get out to the voters of her community, ask people what's going on, how do they feel about this issue, She needs community consensus, and they're going to get it. And it sounds like the province is going to have a lot to say. So stay tuned. Robin, we're shifting topics again.
We are, John. We are. We're shifting over to another topic led by the Grumpy Taxpayers of Greater Victoria. And, there's all kinds of stuff out right now about the housing industry. I see the provincial government now is saying that they want to have a wait period after you do a house deal so you can decide whether you've made the best deal. And the housing sector, certainly the real estate sector, not very happy about that. They say there's too much delay as it is, which is the reason we wanted to talk to the Grumpy Taxpayers, because they're saying there should be something done about speeding up the process. And David Eby, the Attorney General of the province, has said that he is looking at the province stepping in to do that very thing. They're going to step in, take some of the responsibility away from the municipalities in terms of approval of buildings and building permits, to get more construction on the market, to get more buildings up, and hopefully then tap down the expense of buying a home. So we talked to the Grumpy Taxpayers to see what they think about this whole thing.
Man, did we ever. And we fascinating, these Grumpy Taxpayers, because we've really come out of a period of unlimited spending. Has to happen. Moving into now a period of conscientious spending. Soon we'll be going into a period of evaluative spending. So Grumpy Taxpayers, great to be able to start to talk to them specifically today about the province stepping in with regard to the building approval process to get more housing. The logic is more inventory, right? More affordable more houses, lower cost. So we asked John Treleaven what he thinks of this move by the BC government.
Housing. We have a huge housing shortage in Canada, housing shortage in BC, Vancouver Island. It's becoming acute. Recently, Provincial Housing Minister David Eby was talking about the province stepping in, maybe changing the rule book a bit, and the province taking more leadership with approving developments, approving housing developments, pushing this forward so that places are getting approved much faster, people are getting into homes quicker, and the prices start to level off. What do you think of this?
Well, first of all, I believe for sure that it is a supply issue. According to my good friend Casey Edge at the Victoria Residential Home Builders Association, and this was a conversation of a few months ago. We're in an inflationary time, it may have changed, but he would maintain that it cost about the same amount of money, given inflation, to build a house in 1980 as it does today. What's changed? The value of land. Who controls the value of the land? Municipalities. Well, not all municipalities have risen to this occasion, and it's right across the country. And so part of the housing crisis is caused by, NIMBYism. It's caused by the fragility of municipal governments who in the end govern land use. And there are other causal elements, but that's one big one. What's the province to do? Provide loans for kids to buy cars to sleep in? I don't think so. The province has got to step in.
I get that. There are 13 municipalities on Lower Vancouver Island. And ultimately, what's been proven through one variable, that being the price of housing, is that their governance is unable to look after the general interests of our Lower Vancouver Island community. Okay? That is the inevitable result. Therefore, who does? Therefore, yes, a governing body that's looking after all of British Columbia, all of the interests of the province. And so now what? So are you going to advocate in favor of what the minister is saying?
Well, I think the province can't ignore the issue. I think that, we have this experiment, of course, in the Lower Mainland. We have Langford, which has a little different approach to the regime around approving projects.
Yeah, a little
we have
different.
other jurisdictions that have other, but we only have one city. And
And it's young people are leaving. And it's young people are living in cars.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And I mean, if you think about it, one of the issues in every municipality in Canada is the single family home in R1 zoning. And if you wanted to free up the ability of an area to provide housing for its residents, you would eliminate R1 zoning. This would permit, as is the case in some extent, I live in Sydney. I'm in a location with 5 houses where there used to be 2. There are all kinds of infill here. But in many cities in Canada, there isn't. There's hundreds of square kilometers of single family homes and one area of high rise.
John Treleaven has also told us that he really appreciates that the municipalities, the councillors and mayors are in a tough position. They've got a lot of tough decisions on the ground to make. Some of the responsibilities of senior levels of government, they see firsthand, and the first feeling is, well, we better react to this. We better spend money on this. And you got to try to measure whether that's the right thing to do, but it's not an easy place to be. And speaking of the grumpy taxpayers, and speaking of grumpy in general,
Yes.
well, we stuck up these truckers. Now, it's dissipating. It's dissipating. The truckers have broken into different groups. Final event in Nanaimo, they're already talking about taking their trucks and going home across to Alberta and Saskatchewan and other places. And, you know, the interesting thing is the truckers, I think they haven't got the response that they were hoping for on Vancouver Island. If you listen to the truckers, they say, wow, you know, we came here to really inspire nationalism and freedom. And this is the kind of reaction we're getting.
We're running around out here, giving hugs and spreading joy and hope. And a bunch of locals are the ones that are giving us the finger, screaming obscenities, telling us to bug off, go home. We're doing this for you people too, and you don't even realize it. This is what baffles me. So how about this? Your opinion doesn't matter. If you got nothing nice to say, shut up. And I love you guys. Keep spreading the truth.
Well, I believe this is the final chapter in this whole trucker convoy dispute. They've made a lot of noise, they've blown a lot of horns, and they certainly have let a lot of people know how they feel about COVID-19, the masks, vaccines. They're frustrated, but you know, we're all frustrated. We're tired of the pandemic. We just don't agree on things that got done over the last 2 years. And I think the proof is in the pudding. 90% of British Columbians, they got their vaccinations. You still see people wearing masks in grocery stores. They don't have to, they want to. It's a situation where you live in a democracy, and that means you try to do the right thing for your whole community. It's not just about me and myself. It's about everyone and what's best for the community. And I think somehow the truckers associate freedom with freedom to do absolutely anything you want. And so I think that we all want to move forward and be safe. I think the truckers hopefully have learned that, yeah, they maybe have a unity in purpose, but they're a small group. They don't represent the majority. I hope this is a chapter we can now put behind us. And that's the way I see that. And John, we're at the end of the show. So it's time to talk once again about how people can stick with the Rumble Room, like the Rumble Room, support us, follow us. There's so many avenues.
There certainly is. Close to 400,000 folks have found these different avenues over the past year. And so we really appreciate the viewers, the folks that agree, and clearly, as with some truckers, disagree with our viewpoints. How do you get a hold of us? A, Facebook, okay? Number 2, Twitter. C, YouTube channel, where all of everything we do is housed. Lots of stuff there. Of course, we have a website that hooks into our podcast functionality. And then there's Instagram and there is TikTok. Always fascinating places to hang out if you're into that kind of thing. That should prompt a few people to go there. So with all that being said, Robin, I remain an amazing fan of the people of Ukraine. And a fan of the Canadian national men's soccer team. You know, I was only about 4 or 5 years old 36 years ago when they were in the World Cup. So great for them.
Maybe the mentality of a 4-year-old.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that's what my parents would have said. And so that's great. It's going to be great to see Canada back in the World Cup. So, Robin, I am John Jurisic.
And John, I just want to mention about that team in '86. That was George Pecos from Victoria who scored the goal that got them to Mexico City back in 1986, the last time Canada was in the World Cup. So go Canada, go, as they head off to the Middle East to compete again. I'm Robin Adair, and rumble on.